Hi, I'm Dr. Dee Dee Curtis. Welcome to the Curtis World Podcast, where I discuss things that are going on in the United States, as well as occurrences all over the world. Tonight, I would like to, first of all, invite you to subscribe to my channel, but I'd also like to talk about some of the executive orders that President Donald Trump just signed. The most important one that I believe is that he removed us from the World Health Organization. Just take a look at some of the things that they were doing that are so detrimental to the United States. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I had to come on and give my take on some of the things that happened after President Donald Trump was inaugurated yesterday. I have spent so much time going through all of his executive orders. I really paid attention, and I tried to do a lot of research and find out as much as I could about what was going on. But I wanted to tell you about one that I think is probably the most important executive order that he signed, and that was to remove the United States from the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization is really a non-government organization. The people that run it or that are on it are not elected officials. As a matter of fact, the person, Tedros, that is over it now was really put in place by Bill Gates. And you know, he worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for a while, and then Bill Gates put him in power over the World Health Organization. Now, let's take a look at them and wonder. And so I'm sure you're probably wondering why I'm saying that. But let me just say this. That is so important. The World Health Organization probably presented the greatest threat to U.S. sovereignty than we have ever had in the history of our country, because they had what they called a pandemic response treaty that they were going to institute anytime there is a pandemic, and it can start in any country. Now, the scary part about this is that you had these NGOs who thought they were going to run every country. And what really made it scary is because with the treaty that they had sent in and that they thought all of these countries were going to sign, it gave them precedent over all of our constitutions. So if there was something that they deemed was a health emergency, our U.S. Constitution would be superseded by this group of people that we do not know in some place where we do not know they would be, and they would then run the pandemic. And so they were also the people who were over COVID. So this is just me. I just say that COVID was a practice run for them. But we were so fortunate that several countries, as well as our U.S. Senate, said no. Now, let me just go back and just tell you a little bit about this. One of the things with the World Health Organization, when President Trump took us out of it, as I said, I can't stress enough how important that is. You please take a look at this. The probably one of my proudest moments was that 47 African countries in 2022 refused to sign the treaty, or this pandemic treaty that they wanted. 47 African countries stopped it because they said that in the first place, the treaty was kind of arbitrary. They did not have enough information. It was rushed. And then, of course, they were concerned that you had a non-government organization, an international one, that was going to take precedent over all countries' constitutions. Anyway, take a look at this and just look at it. It is so unbelievable what they had planned to do.
The World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty, as it's called, has been blocked and defeated and voted down at the Congress of the World Health Organization last week. Now, we've got to be clear on what this is. This wasn't actually a treaty, although it's widely being called a treaty. What this was proposed amendments to the International Health Regulations 2005 by Joe Biden and his regime in the USA, that they submitted on January the 18th, and they went quietly under the scenes by stealth, and nobody knew about them until about April. But they had their summit in Geneva last week. And what these regulations would have done is give the World Health Organization total power over national policy and emergency reaction and response, whatever that means, if they decided to declare an emergency or a pandemic in the future. So they would take control of the health services of nations, the policing of nations, what they would need to do to respond to any emergency situation. So you could easily have had a global government effectively implementing tyranny, totalitarianism, lockdowns, social distancing, forced or coerced injections to respond to whatever they say, being implemented in all of the member states around the world. That was what the regulation change would have given the power to the WHO to do. But the majority of members, the member nations, voted against it, which is fantastic. So, led by African nations. So God bless Africa and everybody who stood with the nations, with the African nations, Russia, China, Iran, Malaysia, Brazil, many, many other countries as well, all came together to vote against these the regulation changes, which would have allowed this potential tyranny to take place in the future.
Now, after the African countries basically stopped it in 2022, they didn't even stop there. They kept going because, these organizations are run by some of the wealthiest people in the world. And these people feel that they have a right to tell all of us what to do. They don't care what we think, or they don't even care about how it's going to affect people throughout the world, because they have some kind of sinister plans for the people in the world. And so let's move forward a little bit. Senator Johnson from the U.S. Senate, he wrote a document stating that the U.S. government would not participate in anything that would supersede our U.S. Constitution. And he sent it to President Biden saying, please do not sign this treaty. They were actually having a meeting in Switzerland this past summer, and Senator Johnson said, we will not participate. And let me tell you how important it was. Anytime you have 49 Republicans that agree on anything, that means that whatever that is must either be really bad or really, really good. This is one that even Senator Mitch McConnell and Senator Mitt Romney both signed, because it was so heinous. The fact that this NGO thought that they were going to take precedent over the U.S. sovereignty and our U.S. Constitution, they said no. Not only that, in order for a treaty to be legitimate in our country, it has to be approved by 2/3 of the Senate. And the way this was written, that our Senate would not even have to approve it. This non-governmental organization, international organization at that, was going to take precedent even over our U.S. Senate and over our U.S. Constitution.
The World Health Organization has become nothing more than a corrupt globalist scam paid for by the United States but owned and controlled by China. When the China virus reached our shores 3 years ago, the World Health Organization disgracefully covered the tracks of the Chinese Communist Party every single step of the way. For this reason, it was my great honor to terminate America's relationship with the World Health Organization. The United States was paying the World Health Organization almost $500 million a year. When I dropped out, I took it out of there. And for 330 million people, even though China was paying only $40 million for 1.4 billion people. So we had 330, they have 1.4, and we're paying more than 10 times the amount. That's typical for the United States because they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Now, one of the things about this World Health Organization, another reason that it is so great that President Donald Trump says we are not participating in this sham international organization anymore, is look at what some of the doctors across the world are saying about this organization and what they have been doing for the last, maybe almost 100 years. Some of the things are really, really unbelievable. And I cannot stress enough how important it is that we will no longer have anything to do with this organization.
Of any vaccine saving so much as one life. In fact, they are bioweapons, and if you give them to a young child, and the younger the child, the more destructive they are to that immune system. And so it's a combination. It's a combination. If you know where the WHO comes from, I think I put a note down here to where it comes from. But anyway, it was started up by Rockefeller. And what was Rockefeller into? Eugenics. Euthanasia and eugenics. That was Rockefeller back in the 30s. They own the WHO. They own the NIH. So now the game is, these people aren't dying fast enough. We can make a lot more money, and they'll die a lot faster if we put out these vaccines and we use them on small children. Children first. And then we make it compulsory. Then we can even say the kid can't go to school unless he's vaccinated. Mandatory vaccines are murder in the first degree. That is what they are.
So as everyone else was concentrating on some of the smaller executive orders, of course, I looked at the World Health Organization, and if I tell you I celebrated, because every American should celebrate the fact that President Trump took us out of this treaty and out of this organization, because we've never had anything else like this, anything that threatened our U.S. Constitution. We've never had anyone else that said they were going to take over our Constitution. That is just unbelievable, and everyone right now, I don't care what your political persuasion is, you should thank President Donald Trump that our U.S. sovereignty is saved.